Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya, and a warm welcome to the second episode of the Buddha and his Dhamma. In the first episode, we have seen the introduction given by Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar to this book, The Buddha and his Dhamma. In the introduction part, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar had raised four basic questions about the life and teachings of the Buddha, and Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar has requested the Buddhists of India and the world to take these issues for discussion. Now we will move on to the second episode. In this part, this second episode of the Buddha and his Dhamma, we will see the Buddha's, his cool, his ancestry, his birth, and whatever part we can cover in limited period of time, we will cover that much part of this book. So we will move to the cool of Siddhartha. Going back to the 6th century BC, northern India did not form a single sovereign state. The country was divided into many states, some large, some small. Of these, some were monarchical and some non-monarchical. The monarchical states were altogether 16 in number. They were known by the name Ang, Magad, Kasi, Kosal, Vriji, Malla, Chedi, Vats, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, Saursena, Asmaka, Avanti, Gandhara and Kamboj. The non-monarchical states were those of the Sakyas of Kapilvastu, the Mallas of Pava and Kushinara, the Lichvis of Vaishali, the Videhas of Mithila, the Kolyas of Ramagam, the Bulis of Alakapa, the Kalingas of Resaputta, the Mauryas of Pipalvana, and the Bhaggas with their capital on Samsara hill. The monarchical states were known as Janpad and the non-monarchical as Sangh or Gana. Not much is known about the nature of the polity of the Sakyas of Kapilvastu, whether it was republican or oligarchic. This much, however, is definitely known that there were many ruling families in the Republic of the Sakyas and they ruled in turns. The head of the ruling family was known as Raja. At the time of birth of Siddhartha Gautama, it was the turn of Suddhodana to be the Raja. The Shakya state was situated in northern east corner of India. It was an independent state, but at a later state, the king of Kosala had succeeded in establishing his paramountcy over it. The rule of this paramountcy was that the Shakya state could not exercise certain sovereign powers without the sanction of the king of Kosala. Of the kingdoms then in existence, Kosala was a powerful kingdom. So was the kingdom of Magad. Pasandi, king of Kosala, and Bimbisar, king of Magadha, were the contemporaries of Siddhartha Gautama. The capital of the Shakyas was the city called Kapilvastu, perhaps after the name of the great rationalist Kapila. There lived in Kapilvastu a Shakya by name Jayasena. Sinhu was his son. Sinhu was married to Kachana. Sinhu had 5 sons, Shuddhadana, Dhotodhana, Shakkodhana, Shuklodhana and Amitodhana. Besides 5 sons, Sinhu had 2 daughters, Amita and Pamita. The Gotra of the family was Aditya. Shuddhodana was married to Mahamaya. Her father's name was Anjana and mother's Sulakshana. Anjana was a Koliya and was residing in the village called Devdaha. Shuddhodana was a man of great military power. When Shuddhodana had shown his martial powers, he was allowed to take a second wife and he chose Mahaprajapati. She was the elder sister of Mahamaya. Shuddhodana was a wealthy person. The lands he held were very extensive and the retinue under him was very large. He employed, it is said, 1,000 plows to till the land he owned. He lived quite a luxurious life and had many palaces. To Shuddhodana was born Siddharth Gautama, and this was the manner of Gautama's birth. It was a custom among the Shakyas to observe an annual midsummer festival which fell in the month of Ashad. It was celebrated by all the Shakyas throughout the state and also by the members of the ruling family. It was the usual practice to celebrate the festival for 7 days. On one occasion, Mahamaya decided to observe the festival with gaiety, with splendor, with flowers, with perfume, but without drinking intoxicants. On the 7th day, she rose early, bathed in scented waters, bestowed a gift of 4 lakh pieces of money as alms, adorned herself with all precious ornaments, ate choicest food, took upon herself the fast day vows, and entered the splendidly adorned royal bedchamber to sleep. That night, Shuddhodana and Mahamaya came together, and Mahamaya conceived. Lying on the royal bed, she fell asleep. While asleep, she had a dream. In her dreams, she saw that the 4 world guardians raised her as she was sleeping on her bed and carried her to the tableland of the Himalayas, placed her under a great sal tree and stood on one side. The wives of the 4 world guardians then approached and took her to the lake Mansarovar. They bathed her, robed her in a dress, anointed her with perfumes, and decked her with flowers in a manner fit to meet some divinity. Then a bodhisattva by name Sumedha appeared before her, saying, I have decided to take my last and final birth on this earth. Will you consent to be my mother? She said, Yes, with great pleasure. At this moment, Mahamaya awoke. Next morning, Mahamaya told her dream to Shuddhodana. Not knowing how to interpret the dream, Shuddhodana summoned 8 Brahmins who were most famous in divination. When the Brahmins were propitiated, Shuddhodana related to them the dream Mahamaya had and said, Tell me what it means. The Brahmins said, Be not anxious. You will have a son, and if he leads a householder's life, he will become a universal monarch. And if he leaves his home and goes forth into a homeless state and becomes a sannyasi, he will become a Buddha, a dispeller of illusions in the world. Bearing the bodhisattva in her womb like oil in a vessel for 10 lunar months, Mahamaya, as her time of delivery was coming nearer, desired to go to her parents' home for delivery. Addressing her husband, she said, I wish to go to Devdaha, the city of my father. Though you know that your wishes will be done, replied Shuddhodana. Having seated her in a golden palanquin borne by couriers, he sent her forth with a great retinue to her father's house. Mahamaya, on her way to Devdaha, had to pass through a pleasure grove of sal trees and other trees, flowering and non-flowering. It was known as the Lumbini Grove. Mahamaya alighted from her palanquin and walked up to the foot of royal sal tree. A pleasant wind, not too strong, was blowing, and boughs of the tree were heaving up and down, and Mahamaya felt like catching one of them. Luckily, one of the boughs heaved down sufficiently low to enable her to catch it. So she rose on her toes and caught the bough. Immediately she was lifted up by its upward movement, and being shaken, she felt the pangs of childbirth. While holding the branch of the sal tree, she was delivered of a son in a standing position. The child was born in the year 563 BC on the Vaishak Purnima day. Shuddhodana and Mahamaya were married for a long time, but they had no issue. Ultimately, when a son was born to them, his birth was celebrated with great rejoicing, with great pomp and ceremony, by Shuddhodana and his family, and also by the Shakyas. At the time of the birth of the child, it was the turn of Shuddhodana to be the ruler of Kapilvastu, and as such was in the enjoyment of the title Raja. Naturally, the boy was called prince. At the moment when the child was born, there dwelt on the Himalayas a great sage named Asita. Asita had heard the sound in the sky, the word Buddha, and making it resound. He beheld them waving their garments and coursing here and there in delight. He thought, what if I were to go and find out the land in which he was born? Surveying with his divine eyes the whole of the Jambudvipa, Asita saw that a boy was born in the house of Shuddhodana, shining with all brilliance, and that it was over his birth that all were excited. So the great sage Asita with his nephew Naradatta rose up and came to the abode of Raja Shuddhodana and stood at the door of his palace. Now Asita the sage saw that at the door of Shuddhodana's palace many hundred thousands beings had assembled. So he approached the doorkeeper and said, go and inform the Raja that a sage is standing at the door. The doorkeeper approached Shuddhodana and with clasped hands said, O Raja, that an aged sage, old and advanced in years, stands at the door and says that he desires to see you. The king prepared a seat for Asita and said to the doorkeeper, let the sage enter. So coming out of the palace, the doorkeeper said to Asita, please go in. Now Asita approached King Shuddhodana and standing in front of him said, O Raja, may you live long and rule the kingdom righteously. Then Shuddhodana, in reverence to Asita, fell at his feet and offered him the seat, and seeing him seated in comfort, Shuddhodana said, I do not remember to have seen you before this. With what purpose have you came here? What is the cause? Thereupon Asita said to Shuddhodana, a son is born to you, O Raja, desiring to see him, I have come. Shuddhodana said, the boy is asleep, O sage, will you wait for a while? The sage said, not long, O king, do such great beings sleep, such good beings are by nature wakeful. Then the child, out of compassion for Asita, the great sage, make a sign of awaking. Seeing that the child had become awake, Shuddhodana took the boy firmly in both hands and brought him into the presence of the sage. Asita, observing the child, beheld that it was endowed with the 32 marks of a great man and adorned with the 80 minor marks, his body surpassing that of Sakra, Brahma, and his aura surpassing them 100,000-fold, breathed forth his Solomon utterance. Marvelous! Verily is this person that has appeared in the world. And rising from his seat, clasped his hands, fell at his feet, made a right-wise circuit round, and taking the child in his own hand, stood in contemplation. Asita knew the old well-known prophecy that anyone endowed with the 32 marks of a great man, as Gautama was, has two careers open to him and no third. If he becomes a householder, he will become a universal monarch. If he goes forth from the home to a homeless life, he will become a fully enlightened Buddha. Asita was sure that the child would not remain a householder. And looking at the child, he wept and shedding tears, sighed deeply. Shuddhodana beheld Asita's shedding tears and sighing deeply. Beholding him thus weeping, the hairs of his body rose, and in distress, Shuddhodana said to Asita, why, O sage, you weep and shed tears and so sigh deeply? Surely there is no misfortune in store for the child. At this, Asita said to the Raja, O king, I weep not for the sake of child. There will be no misfortune for him, but I weep for myself. And why? Asked Shuddhodana. Asita replied, I am old, aged, advance in years, and this boy will without doubt become a Buddha and attain supreme and complete enlightenment, and having done so, will turn the supreme wheel of the doctrine that has not been turned before him by any other being in the world. For the weal and happiness of the world, he will teach his doctrine. The religious life, the doctrine that he will proclaim, will be good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, complete in the latter, and the spirit whole and pure. Just as an Audambura flower at some time and places arises in the world, even so at some time and place, after countless cycles, revered Buddhas arise in the world. So also, O Raja, this boy will without doubt obtain supreme, complete enlightenment, and having done so, will take countless beings across the ocean of sorrow and misery to a state of happiness. But I shall not see that Buddha. Hence, O Raja, I weep, and in sadness I sigh deeply, for I shall not be able to reverence him. The king thereafter offered to the great sage Asita and Naradatta, his nephew, suitable food, and having given him robes, made a right-wise circuit round him. Thereupon Asita said to Naradatta, his nephew, when you shall hear, Naradatta, that the child has become a Buddha, then go and take refuge in his teachings. This shall be for thy weal and welfare and happiness. So saying, Asita took leave of the Raja and departed for his hermitage. On the fifth day, the ceremony of name giving took place. The name chosen for the child was Siddhartha. His clan name was Gautama. Popularly, therefore, he came to be called Siddhartha Gautama. In the midst of rejoicing over the birth and the naming of the child, Mahamaya suddenly fell ill, and her illness became very serious. Realizing that her end was near, she called Shuddhodana and Prajapati to her bedside and said, I am sure that the prophecy made by Asita about my son will come true. My regret is that I will not live to see it fulfilled. My child will soon be a motherless child. But I am not worried in the least as to whether after me my child will be carefully nursed, properly looked after, and brought up in a manner befitting his future. To you, Prajapati, I entrust my child. I have no doubt that you will be to him more than his mother. Now don't be sorry. Permit me to die. God's call has come, and his messengers are waiting to take me. So saying, Mahamaya breathed her last. Both Shuddhodana and Prajapati were greatly grieved and wept bitterly. Siddhartha was only 7 days old when his mother died. Siddhartha had a younger brother by name Nanda. He was the son of Shuddhodana, born to Mahaprajapati. He had also several cousins, Mahanama and Anuruddha, sons of his uncle Shuklodhan, Ananda, son of his uncle Amitodhan, and Devdatta, son of his aunt Amita. Mahanam was older than Siddhartha, and Ananda was younger. Siddhartha grew up in their company. So, this much discussion we had in the episode 2 of the Buddha and his Dhamma. Stay tuned for the third episode on the Buddha and his Dhamma. Thank you for devoting your spacious time listening the Buddha and his Dhamma. Thank you. Jai Bhim, Namo Buddha.